Over to Steven, who's going to talk to us about how pBone and other manufacturers are making sustainable changes in their manufacturing and production processes with instruments. Thank you, Steven.
Hello everyone, it's great to be here at the Music Mark Conference 2024. My name is Steven Greenall. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called pBone Music. And at the heart of what we do is we care about children and young people having access to a wonderful and outstanding music education. We do that in strategic partnership with music education organisations like hubs, HLOs and music services in three key areas. The first thing we do is we help with progressive instrument pathways. We also focus on sustainable and inclusive procurement, and we look at providing accredited training. And by working with our partners, that enables us to improve outcomes for children by accelerating pupil progress, making sure that you've got the instruments and the technology that you need that works at the right time, and also hopefully provides meaningful school engagement. And it's great that we've got so many of our hub partners here today, and also our instrument partners. We work with brands like Yamaha, Blackstar, and on the SEND space, Digit, who are just down the road in Derby, Cosmo and such like. I actually wanted to start with a thank you. A thank you to all of you. Jonty and I have been out on the road a lot, talking to you, and we know how much effort you have put in over the last 2 years. It's been a lot of time, a lot of lost weekends, holidays missed. Sometimes it's been difficult, but you've fought really hard, you've advocated really hard for the children and young people in your local areas, and certainly on our behalf, we really appreciate you doing that, because it's been really important. So I've been asked to talk about sustainability through manufacturing supply chain, and as Emma said, the panellists here don't consider ourselves to be experts. We are only maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of where you are. But we've been looking at this space since 2019, when we worked with Keele University, to really want to understand the impact we were having as a business on the planet. And since that time, we've learned a lot, and we became the first music company to sign up to the SME Climate Hub commitment in 2020. So I'm going to start with some provocations. The largest contribution of your CO2e, your greenhouse gas emissions, in the next 2 years will be the instruments you buy. So, this is 9-year-old Steve, this is my mum's favourite picture. I always like to use this one. I started my musical journey as a trombone player in Derbyshire, the Derbyshire Music Service, just over the road. So let's imagine I was to use my powers of influence and say to you all, let's go out and buy 200,000 generic brass trombones. That happens to cost about 25 million quid. Well, the other cost is 18 million kilograms of CO2e, which is equivalent to 68 million miles of an average petrol car. So that's a lot. Now, musical instruments is hard because the way we make things, the way we design things, and often the processes and materials we use, they're not always the most sustainable things. Now, you do have some choices. You might be thinking, well, the elephant in the room, Steve, is you make plastic trombones for a living, so this can't be good, right? Well, you'll be surprised. So a trombone is about 90 kilograms of CO2e. A pBone is actually 8.7 kilograms, so 1/10. And that's because of the way we've designed it and we've moved carbon as much as we can. If you buy a pBuzz, that's 1/100th the carbon impact. And the pBuzz is made 20 miles from here in Mansfield. So there are some options, and in addition, when you start to reduce carbon, then manufacturers like ourselves remove it altogether by offsetting the little difference there is. The other thing I want to talk about is breaking the cheapest of 3 quotes cycle. This isn't a cycle you wanted to be in, it was a cycle that you have been put in. You needed to acquire a lot of instruments for whole class, first access, or classroom instrument learning, I think is the latest phrase. However, you weren't given any extra funding for those instruments, not until now. In fact, in a lot of cases, you had to use your own funding to buy those instruments. So inevitably, you bought cheaper instruments that you probably wanted. Cheaper instruments, lower quality, they break easily. The bad news is that impacts teaching and learning outcomes for children. The warranties were probably not very helpful. The repair cost wasn't economical. Often it would have been cheaper to buy a new instrument than repair the one that you had. Let's just say that again, because that sounds absolutely crazy, doesn't it? But it would have been cheaper to buy a new instrument than repair the one you had. The suppliers probably didn't provide you with spare parts, and so there were overflowing instrument storerooms with lots of instruments which you didn't know what to do. But you need to replace those broken instruments because you've still got lots of children to support, and you still haven't got any extra funding, although you might do some fundraising to buy those instruments, so you end up buying more cheap instruments. It's what we call buy cheap, pay twice. Now, I've got some good news, because in all credit to DfE and to Arts Council, the new framework is really clear on this point. They are prioritising value over cost. And I can tell you this because of the 60 suppliers that have been approved to provide funding, the criteria for being on that framework was 60% around value, service and sustainability. That was the priority for DfE. Value, service and sustainability. Only 40% cost. So they are giving you permission to value service and sustainability above everything else. So technically, buying instruments at a higher cost but of better quality, with a robust warranty, comprehensive spare parts, which are economical to repair, that will last for many, many more years, doesn't solve your capitalisation problem, sorry about that, but what it does do is it will benefit a greater number of children over time and is more sustainable environmentally and financially. Strategically, what we say is effective, sustainable procurement accelerates progression and outcomes for children and provides enhanced value for money. Now, sustainability, we talked about at the beginning, it's not always easy for all the instruments to be sustainable because of the way they're made. But it's not just about the CO2e of that individual instrument. It's about the quality of manufacturing design that goes into it. It's about whether there's a meaningful warranty behind it. Are there spare parts available? Is it economic to repair? What's happening at the end of life on the life cycle assessment? And also, what's the genuine commitment of CO2 reduction in the supplier or manufacturer that you're going to be using? So I'm going to point now to a few examples of where really good things are happening. The first one I'm going to use is Blackstar. It's a great brand based out of Northampton. They make a wonderful 49 keyboard foldable, really excellent for whole class keyboard. Yes, you can do whole class keyboard. This is a great product to use on. The blue box up there is the way that they used to advertise the product, point of sale. Looks wonderful, doesn't it? Terrible for the environment. Polystyrene, styrene, plastic bags, whatever. So we work with them to get rid of all that. Now they use recycled board, packaging, 10 in a box, really, really effective biodegradable sleeve. Just one example of a business making a commitment to reduce CO2. Focusrite PLC is the only music industry PLC in the country that has a head of sustainability, a guy called Andy Land, who serves on the MI board with myself. They are designing their components by looking at the CO2e of every resistor, of every chip. That's how seriously they're taking it. As we talked about, it's not just about the CO2 of the products, it's also about how they're designed. I'm going to play you a short clip here from the reputable repairer Sun Hellerud. And here she's talking about how saxophone design for certain instruments makes it really, really expensive to repair, whereas products like the Yamaha YAS280, which is probably the flagship student saxophone out there, makes it really, really easy because it's been designed in the right way. So let's hear what Sun had to say.
Or for instance, a spring that can't be tensioned because there's hardware in the way. This wastes so much time for a repairer, and that's a cost that goes on to the owner of the instrument. And sometimes it hinders me from being able to repair the instrument at all. So that's why access is really, really important for us. Now this 280, for instance, which is a student model, still has incredibly well thought out key layout, meaning that it's really quick for us to repair it. And it's the fact that we don't often talk about that actual cost of maintaining an instrument in the long run is really, really important for the cost of material as a whole. But also, the other one is the durability of the materials. Now, it's a factor that players and educators are not really told about. We don't really talk about how good the cork is, or what kind of pads you got on the instrument. That's kind of seen as like a really high-end thing. But really, this is incredibly important from a repairer's point of view.
So there you go, spare parts, corks, they all contribute to the value of sustainability. And ourselves, well, as I mentioned, products like pBone, made in Mansfield, the boxes for our recorders, made in Birmingham, the mouthpieces, made in Hinckley and Leicestershire. So making product locally here in the UK has a huge impact on sustainability as well. And our next step is actually this product here. So we've actually been able to, working in partnership with Hubs and with Veolia, the biggest recycling company in the UK, take recycled waste from a town and put it into an instrument. And that's the next step of our journey, taking recycled waste and turning it into instruments. So just to wrap up then, you will be the biggest influence on sustainability for music industry suppliers. You have a choice. You can really impact that choice. The instruments you choose will definitely determine the impact of CO2e. Your prioritisation of value over cost. Sustainable procurement benefits everyone, but most of all, it benefits the planet too. Please set high expectations for your suppliers. They're all out there. Go talk to them, challenge them, find out about what they're doing. You've got Andy from Norman's and myself here, but there's other suppliers out there too. Go and talk to them and find out what they're really doing to reduce CO2e. Take your time to do it right. You've had a lot of work to do for the last 2 years, but please take your time. We don't know if we're going to get this opportunity again, so really invest in it, in the knowledge. And seek out like-minded support. You've got the This Is Not a Rehearsal group here, and other organisations that can help you to really come together and let's make the planet more sustainable in our sustainable procurement. And if you need any help, please reach out to us. Thank you very much.